if there were a safe place to have a dangerous conversation, something where you could speak the unspeakable and not worry about someone othering you, or however you want to put that. So a safe space for that kind of conversation to happen. For you in your work, and I'll just talk about the work world, not everything else. In your work, what is that conversation? What's the question that would invite it, and why is that important?
The conversation would be about the impact of trauma on our interpersonal neurobiology and how that transmits in different ways into our personal lives, our professional lives, and the impact that we have on others. I think that's a conversation that needs to be had, and for people to really understand that it's not the event, it's the impact of the event, and it's an adapt, and that leads into a wider conversation as to what is mental health. I personally believe, and this may sound arrogant, and I'm sure there's people that will disagree with me, and that's fine. I'm open to the conversation. Mental health is not what we think it is. Trauma is not what we think it is. Trauma is an adaptation to a set of circumstances. It is intelligent, and it sits within our body. And until we work at the body level to resolve that, to resolve the parts of us that are separated out in that, then we can't integrate and become whole again. And when we can't integrate and become whole again, that causes us to drive towards certain behaviors that can be dysfunctional, whether that's numbing up in some way, shape, or form, eating, drinking, taking drugs, whatever, or whether it's starting a company to say, "I'll show you, I'll show you that I am enough, and I will save the world, and I will create something on Mars, and I'll take the human race there."
Whether they want to go there or not.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that sounds preposterous, but actually, if you look at the connections that go back, so the conversation that I want to have is about understanding and normalizing the conversation around mental health, and in particular, the impacts of trauma and how to overcome them, because actually overcoming them is possible and is easy, and there are enough resources out there to help you do that in a way that brings us back into equilibrium. So mental health is a continuum of balance. We're either out of balance or we're in balance, and some days we'll be in balance to some degree, and then other days we'll be out of balance, and it's degrees of, and we slide between the two. And I think that is far more useful than any DSM manual. I think it's far more useful than any set of pills as a long-term course of action to try and deal with what would be described as a psychological disorder. That doesn't negate some of the more serious conditions, some of the more difficult things that there are to treat. But I want that conversation, because if you look at a lot of what's happening in the world, it boils down to this. We're looking at suicide rates going through the roof. We're looking at all kinds of diagnosis on the increase that are usually tagged with some mental health label. And it's because we choose to view it through an old lens that we don't necessarily make the progress we need to make.